365 Days of Horsemanship, day 327. So yeah, a better day today than the previous few days have been. I had a nice session with Lawrence. Both horses I started playing my music, doing a little bit more dancing, and it really helped with my patience. Because if I'm in supportive leadership and I'm dancing, then I'm kind of thinking about my own body and what I'm doing, which is firstly mimicking the horses' focus as well, because they're thinking about themselves. And secondly, it just means that, like, if it takes them a long time to make a category change, I don't care because I'm dancing. It's fine. I'll find something else to do, like just occupying myself in a more active way. I think was really good. I did about half an hour with both of them. Really just working on dancing them into category changes with both of them, and really just remembering, I think, that variety is the spice of life, and that actually I don't need to be doing every single progression of every single skill in every single session, like, you know, because it was funny, like, you know, I would dance into a focus change, category change, we'd have some flow. I'd dance again into a category change and have some flow. And I'd do that over and over again a few times. And then I would start playing around with putting my hand on them. But I'd normally mess the timing up. And then we're kind of into this different game. And actually, it's okay to just stick with what I was doing. Like, if it's working and I'm happy, like, allow those repetitions to be put in there. And yeah, that just really kind of motivated me. I think just the movement generally and just being outside was also just really good for me. Just good for the soul, good for my state of mind. Yeah, I think I had a situation where I just felt really disrespected and undervalued at work, and I just really didn't know how to deal with that, and I just really didn't know how to sort of not have that affect me very deeply. And I think it really triggered some stuff for me in terms of, like, feeling undervalued, like, at other times in other parts of my maybe like personal life, or things that happened a really long time ago, or like, and it just really brought up all those feelings, and I became very angry about, you know, the potential for, like, you know, me basically allowing other people to walk over me, and like not having that real intrinsic value for myself, and frustration and anger at myself, and frustration at myself that I have put myself in situations like that before, frustration with this situation, which is something that I can't control quite as much. And I actually think that, interestingly, if it's a situation where I could control it, and it's like within a sort of more intimate situation, like a relationship or something like that, for example, which has definitely happened to me in the past, actually I find it a lot harder to take control of that situation and push back and set a boundary, whereas actually in the workplace, a time where actually I don't have really any control over this situation, I'm actually pushing back harder. And I thought that was really interesting, but I was just really consumed with these negative feelings and this anger and frustration and guilt and blame for myself, and frustration at, you know, existential frustration at the way that, you know, people live, and, you know, society and economics and all that stuff. And it was just good to move. It was good to just be here and just, yeah. And I feel a lot more centered now. I feel a lot more calm. I feel a lot more able to separate, I think. And I'm kind of grateful, actually, in a sense now that the situation has happened, because it's really just reminded me again that work isn't everything, and this up here is my life as well, and the horses is my life, and this journey that I'm on with myself, it is actually in a lot of ways so much better met by this journey, And it's definitely, in some senses, it's the harder journey, because when you work, you know, for a big corporation, there's always someone to blame. There's always someone to blame or something to blame that's not you, a reason for why things are difficult that you can say, wow, there's nothing I can do about that. Oh, that's just awful. And that's the reason why things are hard, you know. Whereas when it's something that you are kind of putting yourself into, when it gets hard, I personally find that a lot more difficult to deal with. And I put a lot of blame on myself. And that I must be somehow doing something wrong, or that I'm not doing it right, or that it's all a waste of time and the things I'm doing aren't worth doing, or, you know, whatever, all of that stuff kind of comes up for me. And yeah, I definitely felt that kind of shift a little bit today, to being like, to sort of this feeling of knowing that actually this is the right path, this is the place that I should be, and just motivated me. I think sometimes a little bit of anger is good for you. I had a really interesting conversation with Elsa once where we talked about anger being the emotion of change, and when you're angry, it's actually just because your body or your brain feels like something is supposed to change now. You're not supposed to continue to feel this way, or have these things, or behave this way. Something's supposed to change in your life, and that anger energizes you. And I'm sort of grateful for it today. Like, I can feel this, like, the tiredness and the shutdown that usually happens to me when I feel really big emotions, but the anger is kind of like igniting a little bit of passion in me, and actually I'm kind of like keen to kind of keep that passion and say, no, do you know what, actually I'm going to use this to push through this feeling, and continue to work on the things that I really want to work on. So yes, I feel definitely mentally in a much better place today. And I am back in the place where I am thinking a lot today about how consistency is really powerful and needed, and actually just wanting to be able to have an hour a day up here every day to just dance with them into focus changes, you know. And actually, if I did that consistently for a month, I wonder what the outcome would be in a month's time, you know. And yeah, just training myself to have a little bit more consistency. That might be one of the projects I play with after I finish this project. Is kind of like committing that I'm going to start with something that's really achievable. Like every day for a week, I'm going to come up and I'm going to spend at least that amount of time doing the same thing, and only that thing, for half an hour every single day that week. And then if I can go on and do something else afterwards, I have some time and I want to, then I can. But that is like the base level. I've got to go and do that and just see, like, after a week what changes I have from like the first session to the last session. And yeah, because I think I definitely need to train myself to do things for longer periods, and to commit to the same activity for a longer amount of time. And I think in a lot of senses there is that initial push where you've got to kind of push through that first piece of pressure that says, oh, this is boring, or oh, this is a waste of time, or this isn't going to work, to actually offer yourself the opportunity to see it get better. So yes, that's kind of motivating, definitely. And yeah, it was nice to get category changes, to be honest. Like, when I look back at where Lawrence and I were when I came back from Elsa's, and I like launched in with all this excitement and play into basically the same pattern I was working with today, and he got really overwhelmed. He couldn't stay where I was. He just couldn't tolerate it at all. And now it's like I could just start that pattern without even really kind of thinking about it. Like, I did think about that had happened in the past, but I really, yeah, just basically felt like he was happy. Like, he was fine. Like, he, you know, I did it quite a few times. Like, after a couple of times, the amount of time it took kind of did get longer again, but then it got shorter again before the category change, and I was getting a category change every time. And in the meantime, while I was sort of playing and jumping and bouncing and being and doing, he didn't feel really tight. So that was really great. So I'm really happy with that. The one thing I didn't do today, which I thought about doing, was scratching. And on the one hand, I sort of think like, well, maybe I should have offered the scratching, because the whole idea of the pattern is to offer more scratching than they kind of want. So he feels like there's always scratching available. I just didn't want to be honest. Very human of me, couldn't take my world to it. And I also feel like with Lawrence, sometimes out of sight, out of mind might be better, because I had this feeling like if I got into it, it wouldn't just be one scratch. Like if I start scratching, I've got to be prepared to go through all the scratches, and I just didn't want to. Like I just didn't have it in me to scratch the ears and scratch the face and scratch and scratch this and scratch under the belly and everywhere. I didn't want to do it, and I didn't want to get into a situation where I'm like begrudgingly scratching, because from a psychological perspective, that the game is ruined then, really. So he didn't ask and I didn't offer. I could see him think about it a couple of times, but he kind of self-resolved that feeling, and I kind of allowed that today, just because I wanted to not have to scratch. Yesterday, coming up and really wanting to just be in his space and just be allowed to be there, and then being accosted for scratches was really hard emotionally for me, and I just didn't want to have to deal with it today. So it was a good day. It was a good day. I feel a lot better now than I did when I arrived, and a lot better than I did yesterday. So that is nice. We have gratitude for that.